This was a tweet from Chargers linebacker Drue Tranquill, who said, the NFL should get rid of the combine altogether and hold pro days for meetings and position drills only. Players waste 3 critical months of training and recovery to optimize drills that they will never do again. GPS data and tape are more than enough to assess general athleticism. And this was something, again, that Tom Telesco brought up with me when I taped him for the podcast. He's like, the GPS data that they've had over the last couple of years has really been a breakthrough. Now, I don't think they're ever getting rid of the combine because the combine gives the NFL the one thing they don't have on a lot of these pro days, which is control. They set everything up. There are stories dating back years ago where the Penn State pro day used to be run, it was downhill. So obviously the fast times, the 40 times were a lot faster. And some of those old pro days, whether at Clemson or other places, instead of on field turf, which is sort of the general consensus of what we're playing on most times in the NFL, would be run on a track surface or something else. So with all these kind of little extra nuances and things that the NFL couldn't control, that allowed those pro days to look better than they actually were. So I don't think the NFL is ever going to get rid of, Tony, of the combine. But what do you think of what Drue is saying about using that GPS data and then sort of using more translatable skills as opposed to what the things we've been doing forever at the combine, certain things that may not actually calibrate or translate into football skills?
A couple things. First of all, the combine was started primarily for NFL teams to share medical information. About 8 years ago, I was taking a flight out of LaGuardia to Indianapolis for the combine, and like most flights out of LaGuardia, it was an hour delay. And Carl Peterson, the former general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs, was actually on my flight. So I got to have a great conversation with him. And Carl told me, he said, the idea of the combine started because what was happening was the top prospects in the early 80s, late 70s, they were going from team to team to team and doing their medicals. And Carl said to me, he said, by the seventh team that they visited, they were glowing because of all the x-rays they had already taken. He said, so the object of the combine was to get these guys together, x-ray them once, share the medical information, and then take it from there. From that point on, they developed some physical tests, the 40 time, the shuttle time. He told me they used to do the vertical jump up against the wall. It's obviously since has taken off. Combine's not going away. Number one, the most important part of the combine, as we spoke about, is the medicals. And what happens is all the teams come into Indianapolis and do their medicals. It's at the point now where I think teams are using this GPS information, and it has great value, but it's not the talk of the town. It's not the talk, around the water cooler. Monday afterwards, John Ross ran a 4.24, whatever the heck he ran that year. That's not going to be talked about if it's translated to GPS data. I think things will change. I don't know, considering what big marketing opportunities the league sees in the combine, which is probably going to eventually move out from Indianapolis, that we're going to see a huge change in it.
Yeah, well, that's the thing that you just mentioned, which is really the crux of the matter, right? Like one of the conversations I had with Tom was, he's fine with a 17-game schedule as long as they go to 3 preseason games. And I countered, well, we just had a season where we didn't have a single preseason game or a mini camp or an OTA, and the level of football was fine. But that's the football side of it. Then there's the business side of it. And what you just alluded to, I think, is the most important thing when you're talking about the combine. It's another opportunity for the NFL to sell its product. There used to be no fans at Media Day at the Super Bowl. And then they realized, holy crap, we can make money on this and we can make it a bigger deal than it is. It's now opening night at the Super Bowl as opposed to Media Day. And you're right, much in the same way the draft has been bouncing around. It's going to be in Cleveland this year, and it would have been in Vegas last year. The NFL has another traveling product. Like, it'll kill the scouts and the player personnel guys, but this is going to be a traveling road show, and it's going to be another level to the circus, which allows the NFL to dominate a year-long sports news cycle.
What I've been reporting the past couple of years from the combine is what people are saying is going to happen is they're going to have everyone will converge on Indianapolis, where the players will do their medical exams, they'll do the psychological test, the Wonderlic tests, and do the interviews, and they'll have access to the media with the players. Then what will happen is they'll kind of break out the workouts. where the receivers and the quarterbacks may work out in Arizona. And then you may have the defensive backs work out in Miami. And then the linebackers may work out somewhere in the New York, New Jersey area, the offensive lineman in Detroit and the defensive lineman in Texas. And this is going to be over a couple of different weekends. So this can be televised. I mean, ESPN, they had a couple of years, 2 years ago, 2 combines ago, they had the quarterback workout on 12 noon on Saturday. Last year, they moved it to prime time to get the greater audience. What also is going to happen is as this becomes big business, the players and the player reps are going to start to ask for appearance fees for their top guys.
Correct. Correct.
Joe Burrow's agent, hey, you want Joe Burrow to work out at 8 o'clock at night on a Saturday night to throw? That's fine. We want a $250,000 appearance fee for our guy to show up because you're making money off of it on network television. Watch, that will happen.
Well, it's already happening with the draft. Trevor Lawrence is not going to be there in Cleveland for the draft. He wants to celebrate with his family and friends in Clemson. And the NFL, normally just offers, hey, we'll get you and whoever you want a plane tickets in a hotel room. That's not going to cut it because the players know the business now. It's all out there. I mean, the NFL with these new television contracts just picked up an extra $100 billion in cheese. And I'm sure all the players are like, hey, I'll do the dog and pony show, but I'm not doing it for a hotel room and an airfare ticket.
And the thing with the combine workouts is, these guys are used to working out in the morning, getting the position drills. When it's at prime time, and I've talked to player agents and even the players throughout the years, they're sitting around all day. They're sitting around, they're getting tight. There's all this anxiety buildup as opposed to getting up in the morning and doing their workout. So that's another factor that goes into the combine workouts when they're at prime time on net or likely on network television, as opposed to the way it used to be.
Yeah, that's one thing that people don't know if they haven't been to the combine in Indianapolis. For example, Indy has all those tunnels or
walkways,
skywalks, whatever, walkways that get you from one building to the other because it gets cold in Indy. Well, when you're walking around there and you have the convention center right downtown and the Lucas Oil Stadium not too far away, there are people, and I mean players, working out everywhere, trying to make sure they stay loose. They don't say they're doing shuttle drills. They're running 40s. Like you're walking back and forth to your hotel, and wherever you go, you see these players anywhere they have 30 or 40 yards inside working out, to your point, making sure they stay loose for when their time is ready.
All taped out, usually there with their trainers. In fact, some of the training facilities rent large rooms at the convention center where their guys can stretch out, their guys can work out. Listen, the first combine I attended was 2001. There wasn't even a media room there. It was people like Chris Mortensen and John Clayton outside of the black curtain that was the dividing line between where people who worked out were allowed to go and people who weren't part of the NFL weren't allowed to go with their battery-operated tape recorders and their notebooks. I mean, there were 6 to 8 guys out there in 2001. Now you've got more media people there than you do football people, and the NFL is eating up